Assalamu alaikum dear students. I welcome you in my next class. This class will be dedicated for 11th standard. In this class we will complete the remaining portion of our pituitary gland. This will be the last part of pituitary gland. Till now you have studied that, let us suppose if this is the hypothalamus, attached to the hypothalamus is a very special sac-like or pea-seed shaped structure that you call pituitary gland, and it is this pituitary gland that actually contains two important areas, the anterior lobe of pituitary gland and the posterior lobe of pituitary gland, separated by this intermediate lobe of pituitary gland. The first part you call pars distalis, second part you call pars intermedia, and third part you call pars nervosa. And from the hypothalamic neurons, special two hormones are produced. Those two hormones include the oxytocin and the vasopressin, and they are stored in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. Until now we have completely discussed about your oxytocin. Now today we are going to discuss about a very unique hormone, that is vasopressin. First of all, you should know that vasopressin is a neurohormone. When I say it's a neurohormone, I mean it is this vasopressin hormone that is actually produced from the hypothalamus and is stored in the special sac-like structures called Herring's bodies in the posterior lobe of the pituitary gland. Now, this vasopressin has a target organ, that is your kidneys. Accordingly, in the kidneys there are present special structures. Those structures you call nephrons. You have studied nephron in class 9th or in class 10th. Nephrons are actually the filtration apparatus. Nephrons are actually the machineries that filter our blood. So, from the blood, actually the waste materials along with water is drained into the nephron via the special filtration apparatus. That filtration apparatus we call glomerulus. You have studied something called glomerulus, Bowman's capsule, PCT, loop of Henle, DCT, and collecting duct, collecting tubules. Simultaneously, what actually happens is that the main role of kidney is blood filtration of your blood. Okay, now from this blood, what happens is that the wastes, the drugs, the salts, neurotransmitters, as well as water is actually filtered from the blood. Now, it is this hormone that you call vasopressin. Vasopressin makes the nephrons highly permeable. Vasopressin makes the nephrons highly permeable. For what? For reabsorption of water. What actually happens is that our body should conserve water. For conservation of water, our kidneys should not cause leakage of water along with urine. Our kidneys should not cause leakage of excessive water along with urine. Now, what happens is that it is this neurohormone that you call vasopressin hormone that is produced from hypothalamus. It is this vasopressin hormone that actually has a special role in reabsorption of water. It has a role in reabsorption of water. When I say reabsorption of water, I mean water is not lost along with the urine. फिर क्या होता है? It is this water that is reabsorbed back into our blood. Vasopressin increases the reabsorption of water from the kidneys back into our blood, or from the nephrons back into our blood, from the nephrons back into our blood. Thus, if now the point of fact is that if vasopressin is produced in excess concentration, if vasopressin is produced in excess concentration, does this mean that more and more water will be reabsorbed back into blood? When more and more water is reabsorbed back into blood, will this mean that humans will produce concentrated urine? Humans will produce concentrated urine. In contrast to this, if we will take the just opposite of this, if there is deficiency of vasopressin, at that time, what will happen is that there is deficiency of vasopressin. When vasopressin is not produced, then water will not be reabsorbed back into the blood. Then what will happen is that more and more water will be leaked out. More and more water will be leaked out along with the urine. Then the persons will produce highly dilute urine. Persons will produce dilute urine. Not only the persons will produce dilute urine, at the same time, this means that there is excessive water loss from the body. When there is excessive water loss from the body, then there will be thirst, dryness of mouth, there will be polythirst, ज़्यादा प्यास लगेगी. Now, when more and more water is discharged out, along with the urine, then at the time when there is deficiency of vasopressin, then should we say that the persons will suffer from a very, very special disease? That disease is called diabetes insipidus. When we will study pancreas, there we will study a very special disease that is called diabetes mellitus. Now here we are studying a disease that is diabetes insipidus. This diabetes insipidus is characterized by excessive water loss from the body. Not only excessive water loss from the body, simultaneously there is polythirst, more and more thirst. Not only more and what I mean to say is that it results in the elimination of more and more dilute water. More and more water along with the urine is liberated out. So the next point, body will actually suffer from something called dehydration. So should you call it's the vasopressin hormone, the deficiency of which will cause dehydration, polythirst, and excessive urination, and the condition is known as diabetes insipidus. Now, you should also remember one important fact is that if vasopressin is produced in excess concentration, then more and more water is reabsorbed, Does this mean that blood volume increases? Simultaneously, vasopressin has one important function. Vasopressin is responsible for vasoconstriction. When I say vasoconstriction, I mean vasopressin causes contraction of blood vessels. If this is a blood vessel, this blood vessel undergoes contraction. This vasopressin ki wajah se, this hormone that you call vasopressin, due to this vasopressin hormone, blood vessels undergo contraction. When blood vessels undergo contraction, then this means that area will decrease. Let us suppose this is the blood vessel. Now what happens is that this blood vessels undergoes contraction. When the blood vessels undergo contraction, the area inside the blood vessel decreases. When the area inside the blood vessel decreases, then area is inversely proportional. You are studying in physics, area is inversely proportional to pressure. Should we say that when area decreases, the blood pressure increases? When area decreases, blood pressure increases. Should we say that vasopressin causes constriction of blood vessels? Due to the constriction of blood vessels, the flow of blood inside the blood vessels has high pressure. So vasopressin increases blood pressure. Blood pressure is scientifically known as hypertension, excessive blood pressure in our blood vessels. Now, you should also remember that it is this vasopressin hormone. That is stored in the posterior lobe of pituitary gland. This vasopressin hormone has another name, pitressin. This vasopressin hormone has another name that we call pitressin. Pitressin, pitressin. Or vasopressin has another name that we call ADH, antidiuretic hormone. Antidiuretic hormone. Now, till now we have studied the role of vasopressin in our body. What actually vasopressin does is that first role is vasopressin stimulates reabsorption of water back from kidneys into our blood. Thus blood volume increases. Second point is that if vasopressin is produced in deficiency, then more and more dilute volumes of urine are eliminated from the body with micturition process, with urination. At that time, we will suffer from dehydration of body as well as polythirst, and the condition you call diabetes insipidus. The third point you studied is that vasopressin, if produced in excess concentration, more and more water will be reabsorbed back into the blood, resulting in the increase in the blood volume. The fourth point you studied is that it is this vasopressin hormone that causes the contraction of blood vessels, vasoconstriction. When it causes vasoconstriction, then the area inside the blood vessel decreases. When area inside the blood vessel decreases, then blood flow increases, pressure inside the blood vessels increases. So vasopressin is responsible for increase in blood pressure. Fourth point you studied is that vasopressin is also known as antidiuretic hormone, or vasopressin is also known as pitressin hormone. Hope these 4-5 points you remember. Now again, come to the main topic. Let us suppose this is hypothalamus. Attached with the hypothalamus is a very important structure that you call hypothalamic stalk, that you call pituitary stalk or infundibulum. And attached with the infundibulum is a structure, that structure you call this pituitary gland. And it is this pituitary gland that contains anterior lobe of pituitary gland, the posterior lobe of pituitary gland, and the intermediate lobe of pituitary gland. You have already studied that it is this anterior lobe of pituitary gland that produces 6 hormones. It is this anterior lobe of pituitary gland that produces 6 hormones. The first hormone you call growth hormone, the second hormone you call prolactin hormone, the third hormone you call FSH, the fourth hormone you call LH, the fifth hormone you call ACTH, the sixth hormone you call thyroid stimulating hormone. Now we will discuss each hormone in brief. We have already studied it in our offline batch. Now we have simple recapitulation for these hormones as well. First of all, we will go through growth hormone. GH, growth hormone. First of all, we are going to study growth hormone, or growth hormone is also known as somatotropin hormone. Growth hormone is also known as somatotropin hormone. Growth hormone is also known as somatotropin hormone. What actually happens is that the main role of growth hormone is produced from the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. The main role of growth hormone is this hormone increases the incorporation. It increases the incorporation of amino acids into our body cells, tissues or organs. And simultaneously protein development in our body. What I told you that it is this growth hormone, that enhances the movement of amino acids. Actually मैंने क्या कहा, amino acids की movement ज़्यादा होती है. From the blood, amino acids move into our cells, into our tissues or into our organs. For example, amino acids from blood, amino acids are incorporated or amino acids move into our muscles. And in the muscles, amino acids unite together and form protein molecules. Amino acids unite together and form protein molecules. And thus, more and more protein accumulation occurs, and that in a particular organ, and that organ undergoes mass development and growth. Now, second point, it is this first point what I said is that growth hormone enhances movement or accumulation of amino acids in our body structures. The second point is that the most important point, growth hormone acts as mitogen. Mitogen means mitosis causing agent. Now let me explain this term in a little detail. What I told is that growth hormone acts as mitogen. But how? Growth hormone actually stimulates our liver. From the liver, a very special biological molecule called IGF alpha is produced. When I say IGF alpha, I mean insulin-like growth factor. Insulin-like growth factor is produced from the liver cells when stimulated by growth hormone. It is this liver that produces insulin-like growth factor, IGF. When this IGF is produced, this IGF then enters into the blood. IGF is released into the blood. Insulin-like growth factor is then released into the blood. What is the main function? This insulin-like growth factor actually acts as hormone. This insulin-like growth factor actually behaves like hormone. It acts like signaling molecule. It acts like hormone. And what then it causes is, it has a main role that it acts as mitogen. Insulin-like growth factor acts as mitogen. When I say IGF alpha, insulin-like growth factor acts as mitogen, means it stimulates the cell division. Insulin-like growth factor acts as mitogen, means this insulin-like growth factor stimulates mitosis of our body cells. Means cell number increases in our body. When cell number increases, obviously growth of the body occurs. Growth and development of the body occurs indirectly due to growth hormone. How? By stimulating the liver. And what does the liver does? Liver actually produces IGF, insulin-like growth factor. Now, if this IGF is produced in deficiency, if there is a deficiency of growth hormone, suppose from childhood, if there is deficiency of growth hormone, अब growth hormone नहीं निकला from childhood or from early stage or from birth, then obviously the person will suffer from dwarfism. When I say dwarfism due to deficiency of growth hormone, that is also known as pituitary midgets. Or let me tell you like this, they do not have the normal tallness. They are just 1 to 1.3 meters tall, just 1 to 1.3 meters tall. Then, but intelligence and alertness, their intelligence and alertness is normal. Their intelligence and alertness is just normal. However, they are known as midgets because they have reduced size of their limbs. They have reduced size of arms, reduced size of these legs. अब इसका बिल्कुल opposite. First, there was deficiency of growth hormone that caused dwarfism. Now, if there is excess of growth hormone from the childhood, if there is, now the second point is, if there is excess of growth hormone, it will obviously, from childhood, it will cause tall stature or gigantism, Khali-like body stature. The great Indian Khali, the wrestler, his arms and legs will grow, and his facial bones, his tallness, everything will show excessive growth. However, if there is excess of growth hormone after teenage, excess of growth hormone after adolescence age, if there is excess of growth hormone after adolescence age, then what will happen to that such persons? If there is excess of growth hormone after adolescence age, then these jaw bones will show enlarged development. Hands, chin, they show enlarged development, and the person appears, or person has gorilla-like appearance. This gorilla-like appearance, due to the excess production of growth hormone, that too after adolescence, that you call acromegaly. You should remember this term, that you call acromegaly. There is an enlargement of limbs. Limbs means arms and legs. Not only enlargement of limbs, there is enlargement of jaw bones. When there is enlargement of jaw bones and the person appears like having gorilla-like appearance, bandar ki jaise appearance, and that disorder or that deformation you call acromegaly. What we have studied right now is that growth hormone is also known as somatotropin hormone. It is this growth hormone that enhances the movement of amino acids into our body cells, body tissues, or body organs, is it? And causes protein development in our body. Secondly, it is this growth hormone that acts as mitogen. How it acts as mitogen? It is this growth hormone that stimulates the liver. And from the liver, insulin-like growth factor is produced. When insulin-like growth factor is produced, it is this insulin-like growth factor that is released into the blood. It is this insulin-like growth factor that then acts as a hormone, and actually that acts as mitogen. Mitogen means it causes the mitosis of body cells. Mitosis of body cells means number of body cells will increase. When number of body cells increase, growth of an organism occurs. Okay, so you call it as growth hormone. Now the third point is that if there is deficiency of growth hormone from the childhood, the person will suffer from dwarfism or pituitary midgets. If there is excess of growth hormone from the childhood, the person will suffer from gigantism, tall stature. Now, if there is deficiency, if there is excess of growth hormone after adolescence age, the person will show enlargement in the limbs, enlargement in the chin, and a person will have gorilla-like appearance. This gorilla-like appearance you call acromegaly. Hope you remember and recall all these terms. Now, the third hormone which we have to study. Again, this is hypothalamus, this is pituitary stalk, this is pituitary gland, this is anterior lobe of pituitary gland. From the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, there is a very, very special hormone produced. That special hormone we call prolactin hormone. Prolactin hormone. This is the third hormone. Prolactin hormone. We have to study something about this hormone. Prolactin hormone. Prolactin hormone का दूसरा नाम है मेमोट्रोपिन हार्मोन और ल्यूटियोट्रोपिन हार्मोन. Prolactin hormone is also known as mammotropin hormone. Mammotropin hormone, or it is also known as luteotropin hormone. Luteotropin hormone. Mammotropin hormone or luteotropin hormone or prolactin hormone. Or you may call it, this prolactin hormone is also known as hormone of maternity. Prolactin hormone is also known as hormone of maternity. I will just repeat here one of the most important role of prolactin hormone. You should know that like other pituitary gland hormones, this prolactin hormone is also proteinaceous, made of proteins or made of amino acids. Now, what actually is the role of prolactin hormone is, prolactin hormone stimulates actually the breasts or the mammary glands. Now, what actually prolactin hormone does is that in the mammary glands there is present a very, very special tissue. That special tissue is known as glandular tissue. There is present very, very special tissue. That special tissue is known as glandular tissue. It is this glandular tissue that is actually responsible for milk production. That is actually responsible for milk production in the mammary glands. Now, what I told is that prolactin hormone, once produced from the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, is released into the blood, and blood takes this prolactin hormone up to the target structure. The target structure is glandular tissue. The target structure is glandular tissue of the mammary gland. This is the mammary gland, and there is the target tissue. And from this glandular tissue, from this target tissue, or from this glandular tissue, milk production occurs. So should we say that prolactin hormone has a most important effect is that it stimulates these mammary glands, or it stimulates the glandular tissue of the pregnant ladies to cause production of milk production. This prolactin hormone is produced in excess concentration when the females are in pregnancy stage. When the females are in pregnancy stage, and there is growth and development. There is growth and development of this glandular tissue, and obviously the breast mass or the size of the breasts also increase. Now, let me make you explain one important fact is that there is a special hormone present in the blood of pregnant ladies. That hormone is known as progesterone hormone. You should remember this term for God's sake. There is a very, very special hormone present in the mother's blood. That hormone is known as progesterone hormone. Progesterone hormone is also known as pregnancy hormone. This progesterone hormone is also known as pregnancy hormone. This hormone, the level of this hormone इस हार्मोन की लेवल बहुत ज्यादा होती है इन प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज. नाउ दिस हार्मोन, presence of this hormone prevents the ejection of milk from the breasts. Presence of this hormone in the blood prevents the ejection of the milk. Otherwise, if there is deficiency of this hormone, then milk will be ejected. Now, the third point. What I told you that, please have a recapitulation. Prolactin hormone is also known as mammotropin hormone or luteotropin hormone, and it is this mammotropin hormone, the effect of which is to stimulate the production of milk. दूध बनाने के काम में आता है. ओके, प्रेगनेंसी, मैंने ये भी कहा कि प्रेगनेंसी स्टेज में प्रोलैक्टिन हार्मोन ज्यादा पाया जाता है, जिसकी वजह से there is breast development. Not only there is breast development, simultaneously it is actually this glandular tissue that develops. But मैंने ये भी कहा है कि प्रेगनेंसी के दौरान there is higher progesterone levels. This progesterone hormone directly acts on the breast. And prevents the milk ejection from the breast. Now, next point. From the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, another hormone producer is known as TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. It is this thyroid stimulating hormone that is also released into the blood like other hormones produced from the anterior lobe of pituitary gland. This thyroid stimulating hormone is released into the blood, and blood takes it to the target organ, and target organ here is thyroid gland. You have studied one thing, that thyroid gland contains thyroid follicles. Thyroid gland contains special structures. Those special structures are actually known as thyroid follicles. And these thyroid follicles actually produce thyroid hormone. These thyroid follicles produce thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormones, if you will study at NCRT, there you will see there are two important thyroid hormones. One thyroid hormone is known as T3, second thyroid hormone is known as T4. What actually happens is that these are the two hormones. These two hormones are produced by thyroid follicles. These thyroid follicles are present in thyroid gland. The main focus is that this thyroid stimulating hormone is produced from anterior lobe of pituitary gland, drained into the blood, and it is this thyroid stimulating hormone that has a target organ. That target organ you call thyroid gland. And in the thyroid gland, it is this hormone. Thyroid stimulating hormone, that stimulates these follicles. These follicles actually known as thyroid follicles. And thyroid follicles then produce thyroid hormones, T3 and T4. मैंने क्या कहा? It is anterior lobe of pituitary gland that produces thyroid stimulating hormone. This thyroid stimulating hormone is discharged into the blood. From the blood, it is taken to the target organ. Target organ here is like this, thyroid gland. Now this thyroid gland contains thyroid follicles. Thyroid follicles का काम होता है thyroid hormones बनाना. Now मैं ये कह रहा हूँ, it is this thyroid stimulating hormone from the pituitary gland that actually stimulates the thyroid follicles, and then the thyroid follicles will produce two important types of hormones. The first is called T3 and the second is called T4 hormones. And it is this, but for the formation of thyroid hormones, iodine is important. Now, thyroid stimulating hormone actually stimulates uptake of iodine from blood. Thyroid stimulating hormone thyroid gland से ये वाले हार्मोन्स बनाता है. मैंने कहा thyroid stimulating hormone is produced from the pituitary gland, and it stimulates the thyroid glands, and thyroid glands undergo formation of T3 and T4. These T3 and T4 are actually thyroid hormones. But for the formation of thyroid hormones, iodine is a mandatory thing, because you have studied it when we studied thyroid gland in our offline batch. Iodine uptake is mandatory. Iodine should be taken by this thyroid gland. Iodine is present in blood. Iodine is present in blood. The main source of iodine is actually our diet. From the diet, iodine is taken. From the diet, iodine is taken. From the diet, iodine is taken. This iodine is present in blood. From the blood, iodine uptake occurs, and iodine enters into the thyroid gland. Iodine enters into the thyroid follicles, and this iodine is used for the formation of thyroid hormones. So in nutshell, formation of thyroid hormones is stimulated by this hormone. That hormone you call thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH. Hope you got it. Please study thyroid stimulating hormone at home, as well as thyroid gland, because we have studied in our offline batch thyroid gland. Now, again, let us suppose this is pituitary gland, that to anterior lobe pituitary gland. From this anterior lobe pituitary gland, this hypothalamus, this posterior lobe pituitary gland, this anterior lobe pituitary gland. From this anterior lobe pituitary gland, another hormone is produced. That hormone you call ACTH, adenocorticotropin hormone. Likewise, it's a proteinaceous hormone. This hormone is also drained into the blood, and blood takes it to the target organ. And target organ for adrenocorticotropin hormone is this gland. This gland you call adrenal cortex. This gland you call adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex. Here it is adrenal medulla, this part. But here we are focusing on adrenal cortex. What happens is that from the anterior lobe pituitary gland, adrenocorticotropin hormone, ACTH, is produced. This is a proteinaceous hormone. This is then drained into the blood like other hormones. Blood takes this to the target organ. Target organ here is adrenal cortex. Now, what happens is that you have studied that adrenal cortex contains 3 types of endocrine cells: zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. Zona glomerulosa produces mineralocorticoids. Zona fasciculata produces glucocorticoids. Zona reticularis produces sex corticoids. You have studied that adrenal gland contains adrenal cortex. This adrenal cortex contains zona glomerulosa, zona fasciculata, zona reticularis. Sir, it is this zona fasciculata. It is this zona fasciculata layer of cells. Let us suppose here are this zona fasciculata cells. These zona fasciculata cells will produce special hormone. That special hormone you call glucocorticoids. Sir, glucocorticoids की सबसे important example है cortisol hormone. Cortisol hormone. What actually I am here to say is that from the anterior lobe pituitary gland, adrenocorticotropin hormone is produced. It is released into the blood. Blood takes it to the target organ. Target organ actually is these cells, zona fasciculata cells, or simply adrenal cortex. From the adrenal cortex, glucocorticoids are produced. The most fascinating example of glucocorticoid is cortisol. We have one complete lecture about cortisol. You should study it at home. It is just a quick recapitulation of pituitary hormones. From the anterior lobe pituitary gland, this hormone is produced. This hormone is drained in the blood. From the blood, it is taken up to the target organ. Target organ is the adrenal cortex. Adrenal cortex contains special cells. endocrine cells. These cells are known as zona fasciculator cells. These cells produce glucocorticoids. Glucocorticoids key example cortisol. So should I say that it is this hormone from the anterior pituitary that actually stimulates. It is this hormone from anterior lobe pituitary gland that actually stimulates the formation of cortisol hormone. The formation of cortisol hormone, or simply glucocorticoids का बनना, that is stimulated from this hormone, adrenocorticotropin hormone. Now we are left with two small hormones, because the quick recapitulation and the last class for pituitary gland. From the anterior lobe of pituitary gland, the two hormones are produced. One is called FSH, second is called LH. From the we should stop the class here and we will continue it later. In our next class, we should study FSH and LH in detailed manner. Stay safe, stay home. Presently, I am in quarantine. Stay blessed. Do like, share and subscribe my channel. Assalamu alaikum.